1 second, the man was perfectly normal. The next, he suddenly revealed his true form. In this world, a handsome guy may not necessarily be handsome, and a beauty could also be a witch in human skin. Behind the seemingly warm Grimm's fairy tales lies a series of hair-raising crimes. Today, I bring you the dark version of Grimm's fairy tales. The story starts with this girl in red. As usual, the girl came to this forest for a morning run, unaware that the breath of death was rapidly approaching her. Noticing the doll on the side of the road, the girl stopped to pick up the doll and examine it. But at that moment, the girl's scream echoed through the entire forest, mixed with the roar of a beast. Soon, the sound abruptly stopped, leaving only the MP3 on the ground playing on loop. The originally beautiful forest was now enveloped by a terrifying atmosphere. After receiving the alarm, officers Nick and Xiaohei quickly arrived at the scene, and the sight before them instantly stunned them. They saw a severed arm crawling with flies. The rest of the body was nowhere to be found. In addition, the girl's red clothing fragments were scattered everywhere. All signs indicated that the girl seemed to have been attacked by some kind of beast. But at that moment, a harmonious sound under the grass caught Nick's attention.
We got a boot print down here. We're gonna need a cat.
Although unsure if it was related to the case, the police still made a rubbing of the shoe print. Nick quickly made a new discovery. He followed the sound, and that was the girl's MP3 that fell on the ground, still looping a pop song. And this became an important clue to crack the case. Then the two returned to the city. A blonde beauty quickly caught their attention, but the next second, the blonde girl suddenly turned into a witch. Nick thought it was an illusion and didn't think much of it, but when he returned to the police station, a strange scene happened again. When Nick came back to his senses, the man had returned to his normal human form, and all of this, only Nick of the Grimm family could see. The blood print analysis soon had results. It was a specially made Martin boot, but what they didn't expect was, immediately after, there was a big incident on the other side. A postman was delivering mail. At this time, a little girl in red happened to pass by. After a slight pause, the postman turned around and followed her, and the little girl was undoubtedly going to be tragic. Sure enough, the police soon received a report of the little girl's disappearance. Thinking that both girls were wearing red, Nick inferred that there must be a connection. Without thinking too much, Nick and the two hurried to the vicinity of the girl's house to search. Xiaohei suddenly found a backpack under the grass. It seems that this is the little girl's.
Nick, I got something here.
She must have been grabbed somewhere in this area.
Careful where you step.
Xiaohei hurried to call for support, and Nick inadvertently actually found a string of Martin boot footprints on the ground again. Following the trace of the harmonious sound, Nick quickly crossed the forest to a clearing. A man not far away instantly caught his attention. 1 second he looked human, but the next second he revealed a werewolf face.
Hey, I got him.
Seeing someone rushing straight at him, the man hurriedly turned and ran towards the room, but he was still knocked down by Nick's rush.
Where is she? Where is she?
The police quickly surrounded the man's residence, but after turning the room upside down, they still didn't find any trace of the missing little girl. Although Nick felt he was very suspicious, but there was no evidence. Helplessly, they could only release him on the spot. And just that night, Nick opened a book in his aunt's camper. The ancient book recorded detailed information about various monsters. He quickly found the werewolf data. Werewolves are naturally brutal. They like red, and this further confirmed Nick's speculation. Taking advantage of the night, Nick sneaked into the man's residence. The werewolf was watering in the backyard, but he seemed to smell something, pretending to turn back into the house. But what Nick didn't know was, the werewolf had already discovered his existence. Sure enough, the next second the werewolf broke out of the window. He directly knocked Nick to the ground.
You shouldn't have come back.
But unexpectedly, the werewolf suddenly changed his face. He even acted very friendly. He even invited Nick to his house for a drink. The man did not hide his identity as a werewolf. He also saw that Nick was a descendant of the Grimm family. He said he was different from other werewolves. He had long repented. He switched to a vegetarian diet. He even goes to church to pray like humans. Although Nick was very surprised, but he firmly believed it must be this Wolf Brothers kind who took the girl.
And if you know whose daughter, you had better tell me right now.
Please don't threaten me.
I want to know whose daughter.
Under Nick's gentle persuasion, Wolf Brother decided to help him. Meanwhile, in the depths of the forest on the other side, a van stopped next to a house. A man in Martin boots got out of the car. He carried his sack back home. This is the postman who followed the little girl during the day. He first moved the coffee table. Then he lifted a piece of carpet. An entrance to a secret room immediately appeared. Scared to the secret room, he then let the little girl out of the sack.
Don't be afraid. Do you like it?
I just want to go home.
You are home.
He asked the little girl to take off her red clothes. He casually hung it in the closet. Inside it also hung a lot of red clothes, and each one seems to be his trophy. The little girl was scared. She curled up in bed in horror, not daring to move. On the other side, under the keen sense of smell of the wolf brother, a person and a wolf drove around looking for it.
This is the same blue bed that killed that woman in the woods.
Well, assuming he fed yesterday, it'll be good for a week, maybe 10 days tops. We'll just use the time to fatten her up.
When they came to an intersection, Wolf Brother's car suddenly stopped. He could feel that his kind was nearby. In order not to be discovered by his kind, both of them smeared wolf poison grass on their bodies. This can cover up the smell on the body. As the distance got closer and closer, they soon discovered the mysterious hut. Because of the stimulation of the same kind of smell, Wolf Brother is about to transform into a werewolf in an instant.
What's happening?
In order to avoid hurting Nick after transforming, Wolf Brother had to suppress his bloodline and turn away. Nick was also unsure in his heart. He hurriedly called his colleague Xiao-Hei to come over.
What? I found her.
Meanwhile, the man in the room seemed to notice something. He is a postman during the day. At night he turns into a werewolf.
I want to go home.
I told you, you are home.
When Xiao-Hei arrived, Nick quickly knocked on the man's door. The man greeted warmly. The two looked down. The man was not wearing Martin boots. After learning that the two were police officers, the man was very calm. He even hummed a little tune leisurely.
Are you kidding me? Hank, I really believe this is the right guy. Excuse me, sir?
The man suppressed his murderous intent. He also let Nick and the two look around, but after searching, Nick didn't find anything abnormal in the man's house, although unwilling, but they could only turn around and leave with Xiao-Hei. But just then, Xiao-Hei suddenly thought of something.
The song. What song? He was humming the same song that one of the dead girls iPod.
Realized something was wrong. The two hurriedly rushed into the room again. The room was already dark. Under the cover of darkness, the postman turned into a werewolf. He directly caught the two off guard. The werewolf turned and ran towards the outside of the house, but before he ran 2 steps, Xiao-Hei directly aimed his gun at him. The werewolf returned to human form. Nick hurried to ask the girl Charlotte.
Where is she? Grimm.
The werewolf's voice just fell and he lost his breath. The two returned to the room to search carefully. Nick quickly found the hidden secret room. The man in front of me is a lustful fox spirit. He set his sights on a slim beauty at the art exhibition. With his cunning nature, he quickly deceived the beauty into his home. He wanted to forcibly play a game of poker with the beauty, but he didn't know that the woman in front of him was not a good kind. He just raised his head, and his face instantly became terrifying and hideous. It turns out he is a spider spirit. The man struggled desperately, and in his panic, he even bit off one of her fingers. This angered the spider spirit. She aimed at the man's mouth, and poured the venom into it. The fox spirit never thought until his death that he, as a hunter, would die in the hands of his prey. The spider spirit turned back into a human form and left, but his face was full of tear stains, very wronged, as if he was the victim. The next day, Officer Nick quickly arrived at the scene of the incident. The man's blood and internal organs were all drained, and he had become a mummy. At this time, Nick found there was a broken finger under the man's head, and there was still nail polish on it. Obviously, the broken finger belonged to a woman, but at this moment, the broken finger suddenly moved.
It moved.
After forensic identification, the man was forced to ingest some kind of strong acid venom. His internal organs were all corroded and melted, and then all drained through the abdominal wound. Such a bizarre modus operandi. Nick speculated that it might be the work of a Grimm monster. That night, he went to his aunt's trailer, opened the ancient books and looked up the information of the monster. Nick was surprised to find the spider spirit is this kind of hunting method. First inject the prey with venom, and then drain the prey. It seems that this matter is not simple. On the other side, the disguised female spider spirit, after a change of appearance, successfully hooked another prey. He repeated his old tricks, and immediately sucked the man into. When Nick and Xiao-Hei arrived, they found that the man's death was exactly the same as the man yesterday. Obviously it was the same murderer. In order to solve the case as soon as possible, Nick found the wolf brother who had helped him, hoping to get some clues about the spider spirit. But alas, the wolf brother is just a werewolf, knows very little about the spider clan, so he took Nick to a monastery, where all the residents are reformed monsters. The wolf brother quickly found an old woman, but when the old woman learned of Nick's Grimm identity, she immediately showed 2 fangs. It turns out that he is also a spider spirit. Until the wolf brother explained his intentions, the old woman put away her hostility. After listening to Nick's description of the case, the old woman immediately determined that it was the man-eating spider. It turns out that the spider clan ages very quickly. In order to delay aging, when they are in their 20s, they must hunt 3 people continuously within 3 days. Otherwise they will become like themselves.
So what happens if she doesn't kill and the mortification process continues?
You're looking at it. Can you guess my age? I'm 26 years old.
The old woman added, doing this is not their inner wish, but just a physiological instinct. Every time after hunting, they feel very guilty, and even cry a lot. There are not many spiders with such a conscience.
Not that's always been easy. You 2 young men look more tantalizing by the minute.
Seeing that the old woman was about to have an attack, Nick and the two hurriedly said goodbye. They don't want to arouse the old woman's desire. In the past 2 days, the man-eating pig has killed 2 people, and it must commit another crime tonight. At the same time, on a yacht by the sea, the man-eating pig successfully found another prey. Just as he was about to do it, there was a sudden noise outside. The man had to walk out of the yacht to check, and was suddenly covered by Xiao Hei, who rushed out. It turns out that he and Nick found here based on clues. Nick walked into the cabin with a gun, but he didn't find the woman's trace. Just as he was looking around, the man-eating pig suddenly jumped down from above and directly knocked Nick to the ground. In a critical moment, Nick picked up the gun and fired 2 shots, but the man-eating pig did not die on the spot. Instead, he jumped around with his flexible body. Nick seized the opportunity to pull the rope and directly slapped the man-eating pig onto the fishing net. The famous man-eating spider was caught in the fishing net. It has to be said that this is really ironic. In the end, the man-eating spider was locked up in jail. At this moment, his beauty has rapidly aged, and he can only wait for death silently in prison. After discovering the secret of the lawyer, Wolf Brother immediately told the police officer Nick about this. The 3 people found through consulting ancient books. The goat monster has a charm gland in the hypothalamus. Swallowing frogs can enhance gland function, and once the hormones released by the gland enter the body of others, can play a role in controlling the minds of others. If this is the case, everything can be explained. And if you want the goat monster's glands to lose their function, the only way at present, just use the sweat of the goat monster to make a potion. Then try to get the potion into the goat monster's body. The gland absorbs the potion and will be scrapped on the spot. So a shocking conspiracy officially began. That night the goat monster was walking with a beauty. Wolf Brother suddenly turned back into his original form and rushed out, because goats are naturally afraid of wolves. Immediately turned around and ran. Running away was even more frightening.
What's wrong? You
The goat monster thought he had met a kind-hearted same kind, but I don't know that I have already fallen into someone else's trap. The kind-hearted driver took the opportunity. Hurry up and take out the handkerchief to let him wipe his sweat. The goat was shocked. Didn't think much. If it's a step later, I'm afraid it's really a sheep into a wolf's mouth. But when I arrived at a safe place, the goat monster wanted to take the handkerchief away. The driver lied that it was a token of love given to him by his wife. Just grabbed the handkerchief. The goat monster always feels something is wrong, but I can't tell for a while. After obtaining the sweat of the goat monster, everyone hurriedly put it into the reagent for extraction. Soon a potion was made. As long as the potion is injected into the frog, the goat monster swallowed the frog carrying the potion. Then its glands will be destroyed instantly. In order to complete the plan, Nick pretended to investigate the lawyer being attacked last night, and Wolf Brother quietly entered from the back door. Take advantage of his unpreparedness, stealthily took the lawyer's briefcase to the room. But when he opened the box, the scene before my eyes suddenly made him dumbfounded. There are actually 2 frogs in the box, but the hard-made potion is only one. The potion cannot be injected separately. This made the Wolf Brother messed up. I'm so anxious that I have a heart to scold my mother. In desperation, the Wolf Brother had to choose one at random. But at this time, the frog who was afraid of injections suddenly jumped out. Seeing the frog is about to jump to the living room, Wolf Brother and Nick were immediately scared into a cold sweat. Fortunately, the Wolf Brother is skilled. A pounce directly fell through. Fortunately, the goat monster didn't care. Wolf Brother just escaped a disaster. But at this time,
No, Mr. Kellogg.
dangerous not dangerous. Under the cover of Nick Xiaohei, Wolf Brother just didn't find the goat. After coming out of the goat's house, Wolf Brother hurriedly told Nick about the 2 frogs. As for which one the goat monster will eat, then you can only listen to the destiny. Soon the court arrived on the day of sentencing. The goat is still full of confidence. Continue to wave your hands to confuse all beings. As if I have seen the dawn of victory. Nick Longa is very nervous, but what I didn't expect was, the trial results surprised everyone. The goat lawyer was stunned.
Donald Nadarian. Guilty.
What the hell happened?
Not only lost the unique ability to confuse, because of the use of means to disrupt the order of the court, immediately was put in jail by the police. And the goat monster is not lonely, because next to him, it is the lion who was sentenced to prison.
Lawyers aren't worth their damn in here.
Cannibal, and his favorite, is the nourishing soup made from human feet. He hooks a piece of mud from the foot seam, put it in your mouth and taste it carefully. Found the taste a bit light, immediately added some tomato sauce. Just like that, a delicious meal is ready. I thought they were just existences in legends, but unexpectedly, there are records in ancient books. Through the joint case cracking with Nick, Xiaohei also slowly believed in the existence of monsters. This day Xiaohei accidentally saw in the newspaper he had cracked a murder case 7 years ago. The victims of the case were 2 brothers. The elder brother died tragically. The younger brother was seriously injured, but when the murderer was arrested, he said that the 2 brothers were all monsters.
Listen to me! They wanted to eat me! Don't let them get me! No! They're trying to kill me! They're monsters!
At that time, Xiaohei didn't believe it, but now think about it. Maybe what the man said is true. If this is the case, then the man is indeed wronged, and the man will be executed tomorrow night. They don't have much time left for their plan. The 2 first returned to the police station to check the files. Then I found the man's wife to understand the situation. According to the wife, the husband is a retired soldier, usually honest. If it is not life-threatening, the husband would never shoot and kill. Seeing the wife so firm, Nick and Xiaohei also strengthened their speculation. In order to collect more clues, the 2 found the man's lawyer to understand the situation. The lawyer gave them 2 portraits. This is the monster portrait drawn according to the man's description. Nick took back the portrait. Hurry up and open the ancient books for reference. Sure enough, Nick quickly found a similar monster through comparison. This kind of monster is called a cannibal. The ancient books record, the cannibal has sharp teeth and claws. Born cruel, survive by hunting humans. They are not only cruel, every time after eating people, will bury the skeletal remains under the house. And those sentences of white bones, it seems to be a symbol of their glorious trophies. Just imagine. Nick and the 2 couldn't help feeling chills. Time is pressing. The 2 hurried to the prison again. Want to find a man to understand the process at the time of the crime, but suddenly it turns out that this prison is not simple. Most of the detainees are extremely evil monsters, and the prototype of the monster, only Nick, a descendant of Grimm, can see. After seeing the man, Xiaohei immediately took out the monster portrait, and explained their intentions to the man. The man finally saw a glimmer of hope, and immediately gave a detailed description of the process of the case. It turns out that the man went to the brother's house to fix the water pipe. After the repair, he wanted to take the money and leave, but the 2 brothers suddenly laughed, and claimed to shoot the man. The man thought it was a joke, but the 2 brothers changed, and immediately pounced on him. In order to protect himself, he picked up the gun and pulled the trigger. Although the situation is understood, but to overturn the case, they must find strong evidence. Thinking that the cannibal would bury the bones of the eaten person under the house, the 2 hurriedly drove to the cannibal's residence, but when they arrived, they found out his house has long been transformed into a supermarket. Although the 2 determined that the bones were under the supermarket, but to obtain a search warrant and then excavate, obviously there is not enough time. On the other side, the cannibal is still cooking delicious food at home. In order to make the pig's trotters more delicious, he also added some tomato sauce inside. Unknowingly, a crisis is quietly approaching. Sure enough, according to the clues, Dick and the 2 quickly found the cannibal. Seeing that the cannibal would not admit death, Xiaohei deliberately stepped forward to provoke, trying to anger the man. Let him show his feet. Sure enough, this trick has
Barry is the monster!
although Xiaohei couldn't see, but Nick saw it clearly. After confirming the identity of the cannibal, the 2 hurriedly slipped into his house. After a careful search, sure enough, a hint was found under the floor. It seems that the bones are hidden below. As soon as the 2 went down, a stench suddenly came oncoming. With a flashlight, the inside is full of white bones, and it is full of maggots. But coincidentally, at this time, the cannibal just drove home. After discovering the 2, he immediately showed his prototype, and started fighting. On the other side, the man's execution time has arrived. The police tied him tightly to the bed with a belt, then inserted a needle into his arm. The man was completely desperate, because as long as the 3 tubes of medicine are injected, the man will die immediately. Watching time pass by every second, Nick is still fighting with the cannibal. Xiaohei seized the opportunity. With a few bangs, the cannibal just got the lunchbox. Without thinking too much, Xiaohei hurriedly called the police station. The man's execution time was thus delayed. Then a group of police came to the supermarket. Sure enough, as the ground of the supermarket was dug up, a pile of white bones suddenly appeared. This can not only become a strong crime certificate for the 2 brothers, at the same time, it also cleared the man's grievances. Although the case ended here, but waiting for Nick and the 2, but it is the existence of more terrifying. He is a mermaid with a stunning appearance, big eyes, small mouth, high nose bridge, can be called the most beautiful existence among monsters, but his children are uglier than one. The height is even less than 1 meter. Every Christmas, they will come out to make trouble. It can be called the incarnation of the Christmas devil.
Help! Dennis!
The annual Christmas is here again. This family is holding a Christmas party, but there is a mysterious box at the door. Friends thought it was the owner's express delivery. Without thinking too much, they carried the box into the house. But what they don't know is, what's in the box? It is the demon pavilion that appears every year. Sure enough, the party ended late at night. Suddenly a big hand pierced the box. The woman seemed to hear the movement, but the sleeping husband didn't care. But I don't know, a crisis is quietly approaching.
Dennis, there is somebody downstairs. I told you.
Call the police.
The husband finally noticed something wrong. Hurry up and get up to check downstairs. I saw the living room in a mess, and the scene I saw afterwards suddenly scared the man.
Oh, God.
The man was so scared that he turned around and ran, but the three monsters caught the man without saying a word. After receiving the police, Nick and Shohei quickly arrived at the scene. The wife was obviously scared, but he didn't know what happened. When he came downstairs, the husband has been seriously injured and unconscious. Shohei carefully checked and found the express box was torn open from the inside. From this point of view, the murderer was hiding in the box at the time, but at this time, Nick found there are some leftover fruitcakes on the ground. Did the murderer break in late at night, just to steal the cake? The next day Nick and the two went to the hospital, asked the man about the situation at the time of the crime. According to the man, the murderer is 3 green eyes, yellow teeth and pointed ears. Nick and the two realized that this was not like a human being. Sure enough, according to the man's description, soon the murderer's portrait was drawn. Nick immediately opened the ancient books to check the information. Through comparison, soon found a very similar monster. This monster is called a goblin. It's the child of 2 different races of monsters, often appear during Christmas to make trouble, but they also have a weakness. As long as you eat a fruitcake made of candied fruit, will always recover human form, become harmless. On the other side, he is a mermaid with a stunning appearance. The man is a vicious vulture monster. A long, thin tongue. It looks so sexy and disgusting. And his parents are not any good birds. Every day they encourage their son to go out and harm people. After the son dilutes the internal organs of others, then feed them. This is definitely reciprocity in the animal kingdom. One day, a few gangsters shot a companion because of uneven distribution of spoils. On the other side, the vulture monster in the car suddenly smelled the scent of death. He quickly found it by following the smell. The gangsters thought they saw a savior, but the man ignored her. Then he took out her wallet and ID and threw it on the ground. Seeing that the gangster was still not tired, the man decided to help her, because she only eats the internal organs of the dead. He dragged the gangster to the road, directly ran over the gangster. But this is far from over. In order to ensure that the gangster is completely finished, he started the car and ran over it repeatedly. In this way, a delicious meal is made. After diluting the internal organs, the man drove home. After careful observation, confirmed that there was no one around. Then he opened the door and walked in, and his parents couldn't wait. The man didn't say a word, immediately transformed into his original form, with a posture of wanting to eat people. Seeing this scene, the parents also transformed into their original form, opened their mouths and wait for their son to feed. Although the man is also unwilling to kill, but in order to support his parents, he can only do evil frequently. On the other side, after receiving the police, Nick and the three quickly arrived at the scene of the crime, and the scene in front of them immediately stunned them. The internal organs of the deceased were completely diluted. Only a soft skin is left on the ground, from the bone residue remaining at the corner of the mouth. Obviously, the internal organs were sucked away from the mouth. The autopsy found there is a kind of nitrate in the body of the deceased. Under the action of this enzyme, the skeleton of the deceased was completely dissolved. Various signs indicate this does not seem to be done by humans. Nick immediately consulted the ancient books. He found that this method of committing crimes is very similar to the hunting behavior of the vulture monster. But then something big happened on the other side. A drunk man started a car. He thought today would be another beautiful day, but it was just wishful thinking. The man drove into a tree. He flew straight out of the windshield. At the same time, the vulture monster not far away suddenly smelled a scent of death. After finding the man, he did the same thing again. First, he started the car. He ran over the man back and forth. Without hesitation, he immediately diluted the man's internal organs. He adhered to his so-called filial piety to his parents in this way. The two cases are strikingly similar, and they all happened near the park. Nick was more convinced of his previous guess, in order to attract the murderer to show up. Several people came to the park at night. Wolf Brother personally acted as bait. He sprayed rotten meat all over his body, and this method is indeed effective. The man quickly followed the smell here. He thought the plan was seamless, but what he didn't expect was the appearance of a dog. Completely disrupted this plan, seeing the provocative look in the dog's eyes. Officer Wang, who was infected with the werewolf virus, immediately transformed into his original form, without saying anything. He immediately chased after the wild dog, but coincidentally, he was not careful, and fell directly to the ground and hit his head. He was knocked out on the spot. On the other side, the man suddenly smelled a fresh scent of death. In order to eat something fresh, he ran straight towards old Wang. Nick and Xiaohei were stunned, although they didn't know what was going on. They also followed, until they found old Wang's ID. They realized that something had happened. On the other side, the man had dragged old Wang onto the road. He kept apologizing to old Wang, saying that he didn't want to do this, but he still started the car. But just as he was about to run over, fortunately, Nick and the two arrived in time. The man saw this and ran away. Seeing that he couldn't run away, he immediately showed his original form in an attempt to scare the two away. But he didn't expect the two to stand still, so he turned around and ran away. But the man never thought that he would be crushed to death by a car in the end. At the end of the story, Nick called the man's parents over, let them say goodbye to their son for the last time. But what they never expected was, as soon as Nick and Xiaohei left, the parents' stomachs were hungry again. So in order not to waste their son's body, the two did not hesitate, and they ate their son directly.
But leave some for me.
Nick, as a Grimm, saw the scene clearly, but he did not alert the enemy. The pig demon provided the menus of the two victims, but upon comparison, it was found the chives ordered by the two victims were not the same. The only similarity is the meat pie given by the restaurant, but no abnormalities were found after the drug test. The case was at a standstill for a while, so several people went to find answers from ancient books. They were surprised to find, as long as a werewolf eats a mushroom called despair black mushroom, the stomach will swell, and eventually die from body explosion. Ordinary people will not have any abnormalities after eating it. Nick speculated that the two victims might be werewolves. He immediately said the name of the deceased, asked if Wolf Brother knew him. After getting a positive answer from Wolf Brother, he immediately thought of the answer. It must be the pig demon who put the mushroom in the meat pie, specifically to hunt werewolves who dine in the restaurant. Seeing another werewolf friend died on the spot, Wolf Brother couldn't bear it anymore. Even without any evidence, he had to kill the pig demon no matter what. In order to avoid this slaughter, Nick immediately found the pig demon boss, and told him about the despair mushroom.
It's called black despair.
Seeing that the secret was discovered, the pig demon immediately showed his original form. He told Nick not to meddle. This is their grudge with the werewolves. Half of his relatives died at the hands of werewolves. If Nick really had evidence, he wouldn't come to persuade him to plead guilty.
I'm sorry, but I need to ask you to leave.
Seeing that Nick's persuasion was fruitless, Wolf Brother decided to kill the pig demon himself. It seems that a slaughter is inevitable. On the other side, the pig demon just walked out of the restaurant. Wolf Brother immediately followed. Seeing that it was not good, the pig demon was scared and turned around and ran, but he was still a step late. Several other werewolves had already surrounded him.
No, please!
Wolf Brother was about to do it, but unexpectedly, Nick came to stop him.
You're under arrest.
Seeing that Wolf Brother still refused to give up, Nick had to shoot him. But even so, because there were too many werewolves around, it was impossible for the pig demon to escape. Nick suggested that he plead guilty and accept the law. Only then will they take him back to the police station. Otherwise, he can only be eaten by werewolves. Seeing that he was doomed, in order to survive, the pig demon had to plead guilty on the spot. But what the pig demon didn't know was, he had just been put in the police car. The Wolf Brother on the ground suddenly woke up. It turns out, all this was a plot by Nick and Wolf. The woman is a fierce wild boar monster. She has 2 sharp tusks, which makes her look so sexy and disgusting, and her husband is even more extraordinary. The man is named Shawshank. He is a famous witch doctor, with his powerful witchcraft. No matter what kind of difficult diseases or infertility, as long as he performs witchcraft, the patient's stubborn disease will be immediately eliminated. However, what people don't know is, every time Shawshank saves people, his body will become extremely weak, because this is at the cost of consuming life.
How much do I have to pay you?
Live a long, happy life. That's payment enough.
However, what was unexpected was, such a selfless witch doctor who saves people, was assassinated by a mysterious man that night. The man thought he would easily succeed, but he didn't know that Shawshank's witchcraft not only saves people, it also has a lethality comparable to nuclear radiation. Shawshank chanted an ancient spell. A mysterious force suddenly merged into the man's body. In panic, the man directly broke the window and jumped out. It turns out that he didn't mean to harm people. In order to protect himself, he had to use witchcraft. As for why the man wanted to assassinate him, Shawshank himself didn't care. After all, he had done too many sins before. There are many people who want to kill him, and now he just wants to cure diseases and save people to atone for his sins. Considering it was self-defense, Shawshank was immediately acquitted. But what he never expected was another conspiracy against him is quietly brewing in his home. A black hand actually put a deadly poison in his favorite wine. After returning home, Shawshank asked the maid to pour him a glass of wine, but as soon as his wife left, he and the maid started to frolic. Seeing all this, the wife immediately showed a fierce look. He had reminded the servant to stay away from her husband, but the servant ignored it. If it weren't for her husband forbidding him to kill, he would have killed this maid a long time ago. But I don't know the reason why the maid approached Shawshank, actually to avenge her father.
Don't touch me.
What's wrong?
You killed my father.
What?
You killed my brother. I poisoned you. Why don't you die?
I thought the poison in the wine would work, but with countless witch doctors, how can it be killed by a little poison? After listening to the maid's description, Shawshank knew that this was all the sin he had committed. He sincerely confessed to the girl, hoped to be forgiven. But how can the hatred of killing father be put down? Shawshank did not resist, was stabbed with a dagger. Seeing her husband injured, the wife couldn't bear it, immediately cut the girl's neck with her tusks. Seeing that the girl was about to die, Shawshank stumbled down the stairs, despite his wife's persuasion, used the last bit of strength to save the girl, and he died on the spot. For him, maybe this is the best redemption for him. The man is a terrifying beetle monster, feeds on the life of people. He opened his bloody mouth and went straight to suck on the beauty's face. Yes, he is sucking the life of the beauty. After each feeding, he will turn the life into a white liquid and spit it all into a container for collection, then sell it at a high price to a cosmetic doctor. As long as the doctor makes a slight adjustment, can make a cream that can rejuvenate people. But the beauty who was sucked away by the salesman is miserable. When she woke up from a coma, still know nothing about what just happened. But when she got home, found herself aging rapidly. The skin that was smooth and tender a second ago is rapidly drying up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the front teeth have lost one. The next day, the girlfriend who just got off work and returned home saw the scene in front of her, was immediately scared out of a pig call. I saw an old woman with a withered face lying on the ground. Because of excessive aging, there is no life breath anymore. After receiving the police, Nick and the three quickly arrived at the scene. Learned from the girl's mouth, the old woman is wearing her roommate's clothes, even the jewelry on her body. It's exactly the same as his roommate. The old woman lying on the ground, it won't be his roommate. In order to confirm the identity of the old woman, the police immediately conducted fingerprint identification. They were surprised to find the dead old woman. It is the girl's roommate who just turned 20. Various signs indicate this is not like what humans do. The two are a full 70 years apart. Even the forensic doctor can't give a reasonable explanation. So Nick and a few people went to the ancient books to find the answer. They found a kind of monster called a beetle monster, feeds on the youth of humans. After feeding, it will spit out a kind of white elixir of life. This elixir of life is very magical. Just apply it to your face, then gently shine it with ultraviolet light. Instantly make a 50-year-old woman 51 years younger.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
It's a miracle.
However, what the doctor doesn't know is, the elixir of life also has a side effect if used too much. It will turn people into monsters, but the doctor doesn't believe in evil. He also wants to experience the feeling of being a fresh meat. So, he applied a lot of elixir of life to his face and then, he became like this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Forbes.
On the other hand, according to clues, the police quickly locked this doctor. The elixir of life he made. It is likely that the beetle monster provided him with the raw materials. Then Xiaomei, who just found a job, came to the hospital to find out the situation. But Xiaomei just entered the door. I was immediately frightened by the doctor's face.
Hi, I'm Dr. Forbes.
This special cream you use, can you tell me what's in it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. It's a secret.
At this time, the beetle monster who came to trade also came to the hospital. Nick and the three of them saw the situation and followed up immediately. Seeing the trap, the beetle monster immediately showed its original form. Then he started fighting with the three of them. Without thinking too much, Brother Wolf also drew the prototype and immediately joined the battle. After a fierce fight, the monster was finally controlled, but at this time,
这时，医生突然从背后给怪物抹脖子。
What am I gonna do now? It's broken, and it's your fault.
the doctor suddenly wiped the monster's neck from behind, and the doctor, because of too much application of the elixir of life, he himself completely fell into a monster. The young girl in front of me turns out to be an extremely ugly toad. This sexy and disgusting look makes the confused Dezhuang a bit confused.
I told you.
This day the girl and several teammates went out for a ride. Halfway through an accident, directly overturned on the ground with the car, and the scene in front of me just happened to be seen by Dezhuang, who came together.
Bella, you alright?
Yeah, I'm okay.
After confirming that the girl was okay, Dezhuang, who had been secretly in love with the girl for a long time, immediately expressed his admiration, but the girl's reaction was very strange. He urged Dezhuang to leave quickly, don't touch yourself at all, but Dezhuang just didn't listen and kept expressing love. At this moment he suddenly found there is a lump of mucus on his hand.
I told you.
The beauty turned into a toad in the next second. The girl hurriedly rode away and Dezhuang was miserable. He suddenly started having difficulty breathing, then rolled down the hillside into the lunchbox. Nick and others who received the police that night arrived at the scene of the crime quickly. Dezhuang's body was full of sores, as if it had been corroded by sulfuric acid. The death was very weird, but before the situation was clarified, another accident happened on the other side. That night another young man came to express his love to the girl. The girl persuaded him to leave quickly, but the young man didn't listen and even drew his original shape on the spot. It turns out that he is also a Grimm monster. Before the girl could react, the young man kissed her directly, but the next second was miserable.
The hell?
Like Dezhuang, the young man began to have difficulty breathing. The whole body is rotten.
What are you?
Seeing that it's not good, the girl quickly dialed the emergency call, but before the doctor arrived, the young man quickly got his lunchbox. The two cases are surprisingly similar and they are not like humans. In order to find out the truth, Nick and others immediately consulted the ancient relics left by the Grimm ancestors. They were surprised to find there is a monster called Poison Doll. Once pursued by the opposite sex, the skin will involuntarily secrete a kind of poison. Just need a drop. Can poison 10,000 mice and 2 elephants. In this way, the two deceased are likely to have pursued the same girl. According to the clues found earlier, Nick quickly locked this poison tile jar, but when he and Xiaohei came to the girl's house, but found the girl's mother lying on the ground, there was a scream in the room.
You don't understand. My mother's with her.
It turns out that in order to prevent the girl from causing trouble again, the girl's grandmother actually picked up the branding iron and wanted to disfigure. Fortunately, Nick arrived in time. The girl escaped.
You think you saved her? Oh, you haven't saved her from anything.
Maybe we have.
At the end of the story, Nick and others developed a kind of antidote. Just drink it. The girl will not secrete toxins in the future, but the side effects are unknown. In order not to hurt others, the girl did not hesitate, directly picked up the potion and drank it. Although half of her face was almost ruined, but she who no longer secretes toxins, also got a boyfriend who killed Matt. The boyfriend doesn't mind her. From then on, the girl lived a normal life. This monster is called a dream eater, feeds on people's sleep. In its cherry small mouth, filled with 300 sharp teeth, it can be described as the most terrifying existence in Grimm's monsters. Late at night, the man just wanted to sleep. A green gas suddenly drilled into his body. Then the man was unable to move, like being pressed by a ghost. The monster climbed onto the bed without any scruples. The man was terrified. Can only let the monster absorb his essence. To guard against monsters, the man locked the door tightly. Even the windows were nailed to death by him. I thought it would be safe, but every time he was about to fall asleep, monsters can always appear out of thin air like ghosts. Although the monster did not kill him, but the torment day after day has already made his spirit on the verge of collapse.
Not again, this is impossible.
The man couldn't stand it anymore, ran to the street in shorts. He was very puzzled. The doors and windows are clearly locked. How did the monster enter the hotel room? Seeing the man crazy, Dezhuang mistakenly thought he was a tramp, so kindly offered to help him find a place to sleep. But unexpectedly hearing the word sleep, the man immediately fell into madness. Grabbing Dezhuang is a rubbing, so confused Dezhuang directly led the lunchbox. Received the police. Nick and the three quickly arrived at the scene, but the man has long disappeared. According to clues, the police immediately found his residence. The hotel administrator said the man lives in room 308, but they just arrived at the door. There was a jingle inside.
Dan, if you don't open the door, we're gonna break it down.
If I let you in, it'll get me.
Seeing that the man would not open the door, the police had to break in. Through the man's words, Nick speculated he is obviously afraid of something, but the two just wanted to leave. Nick found a wheelchair grandpa is staring at them. After returning to the police station, the man confessed. Recently a monster has always been entangled with him. The monster's green mouth is full of sharp teeth. He hasn't slept for a long time, but just at this time, the horror monster suddenly kept flashing in his mind. Seeing the man going crazy again, Xiaohei gave him a small punch.
Or that?
But before this side was clear, then there was an accident in the hotel. This time it was Fat Mei who lived next door. The same as the man's experience. He suddenly couldn't move all over. Can only watch the monster open his mouth and approach him. After the incident, Fat Mei was terrified. He panicked and rushed out of the room. But, unexpectedly, he was unstable, directly fell downstairs, died on the spot. The administrator said, Fat Mei's death was just an accident, but intuition tells Nick, this is not so simple. It is likely that Grimm creatures are sitting in the pavilion. So according to the man's description, he immediately found Wolf Brother to help check the ancient books. And Wolf Brother, who graduated from elementary school, is also very knowledgeable. He said there is a monster called Dream Eater, will enter people's minds to steal sleep, because only by stealing sleep, they can fall asleep. But the person who has stolen sleep is miserable, because they can't sleep for a long time. Eventually mental breakdown leads to madness. In this way, the Dream Eater is hidden in the hotel, in order to catch the monster. Nick also kindly let Wolf Brother act as bait. Stayed in that hotel that night. Wolf Brother locked the door tightly, then locked the window. He put the camera on the dressing table. The situation in the room is clear at a glance. But what I didn't expect was, Wolf Brother just turned off the light and lay down. Suddenly he was fixed by gas, unable to move. Dream Eater repeated its old tricks, immediately opened his cherry small. Found the camera. Nick was blacked out. Xiaohei hurriedly broke in. But when they entered the room, the monster has long disappeared, and the camera also fell from the counter. Obviously someone moved the counter. When they moved the counter, unexpectedly found a secret road behind, ignoring the immobile Wolf Brother. The two old six immediately went deep into the secret road. Hearing the movement ahead, the two sped up and chased quickly. They found that the person was actually the hotel administrator. It turns out that the administrator is a hound monster. Without any effort, the hound monster was quickly knocked to the ground by the two, but he is obviously just a door-watching brother. Without thinking too much, they went deep into the secret road again, but when they came to the end, found that this is a luxuriously decorated room. At this time the hotel lady boss ran out. Wolf Brother smelled it, just confirmed that he is a Dream Eater, and Dream Eater no longer concealed. Immediately opened his mouth and pounced. Nick dodged lightly. Dream Eater died on impact. Like you, Wolf Brother and Xiaohei are all confused. The monster just died like this. I seriously suspect. Is the director short of funds? Even the grandpa in the corridor laughed. On a patch of grass in a park late at night, suddenly a pair of terrifying tentacles stretched out. It seemed that something was about to break out of the ground. And then, a big golden creature crawled out. It turned out to be a giant cicada monster, specializing in young women as food. Every 7 years it burrows out from the ground to forage. However, after not eating for 7 years, its body was already extremely weak.
Are you okay?
Hungry. Need something to eat.
A kind passerby saw him, and quickly dialed the rescue phone for him, but just a twist of the head, the man on the ground suddenly disappeared, but he just turned his head suddenly. The man's neck was pierced through, and he immediately collapsed on the ground. The next day, Officer Nick and 2 others quickly arrived at the scene of the crime. The examination found that the deceased had serrated wounds on his neck. His wallet and belongings were all gone, and not far away on the grass, they also found a pile of stinky rags. Nick initially judged, this is likely a robbery and murder case, but just then, a scream suddenly came from Nick and another ran over to see. It turned out that a little boy was stuck in the grass, but just as the two of them pulled the boy out, a dry hand was also brought out. I measured that there was actually a skeleton in the pit. Through an autopsy, it was found, the deceased was a young woman, at least dead for 7 years. There were serrated marks on her neck, just like the deceased on the grass. It seems that this case is not simple. On the other side, the giant toad monster with a new face, actually targeted a plump woman. Looking at the juicy fat girl, the giant toad monster was very satisfied in his heart, but what she didn't know was, the fat girl in front of her was not a good kind. The fat girl's boyfriend, Big Black, saw it, said he had to talk to the giant monster. The giant monster first sneered, then he went outside the bar with Big Black, but just as Big Black was about to do it, suddenly, just like the previous man, Big Black was pierced through the throat, and he immediately collapsed on the ground.
Cheers.
The two cases are strikingly similar, and the death is very strange. Nick suspects that this is probably the work of a Grimm monster.